Ben Coleman. Ben, how do you feel being our mystery guest today, man?
Man, I feel good. I feel honored, man. I think it's pretty cool. You're doing a mystery guest. I'm excited to be a part of it.
Look, we've had Ben on a number of times. I feel like every single time that we wrap up an interview with you, we're like, man, this guy is he's definitely got a future radio, podcasting after you decide to hang it up. I know we chatted a little bit off camera before we actually started the show, but just for everybody listening on audio and for everybody watching at home that maybe didn't get the chance to make it out, you had like a little podcast series, sit down series over at Pedal House. How did that go for you, man?
Man, it went good. I think the opportunity to meet a lot of new people, I think, is most important. There's a lot of huge fans too that I never even really knew of, and I think a lot of people from a lot of people that have been on Twitter that have been supporting me. That you'd be like, hey man, this is my Twitter handle and this is me in person. So I think that was pretty cool and unique to see. Is like, man, there's people out here that are supporting you. So to put kind of a face, I guess you could say, to an account, I think was pretty cool.
You seem like a pretty down to earth guy. Is it still kind of weird for you to like have people come up and be like, "Oh man, like I'm a fan," or "I love what you do," and just like look at how this Arizona State team has kind of ignited Tempe, and you obviously being a really big part of that. Has that all really sunk in with you yet?
I think it has. Of course, Coach Dillingham. It's like the royal family of Arizona. My fiance came up with that, and I feel like it's pretty fitting. So I give him a hard time about that. But I think it's really cool that everybody being bought in and having that vision that Coach Dillingham had really from year one. Prince Dorber and I were talking today, and we're like, hey man, if you were in those first 3 years, we're the last group of people that was with Dillingham that first year. Man, we got to stay close and we got to come back like mandatory weekends together because we were the ones who saw this thing all the way from the bottom, like really from the bottom, and saw his vision and really everything that he spoke into us. Like, man, we can do this. And then we all believed. And so I think seeing that, come to fruition, I think is one, important. And I think it's pretty cool to see. I think less more, we think of it as players, but more for when we see guys, get drafted in the league. I was even super happy to see even Chris Edmonds the other day making a play on the ball. I found that on Twitter. So I think that was really important to see even those guys, Messiah Swinson. Just all that stuff was really unique to me, I felt like, because there was a vision that was established that first year about really activating the Valley. So now it being, officially active, I think that's pretty cool.
Hey, you mentioned that first group of guys that transferred here or that were a part of that initial recruiting class when Kenny got here, and we all know about that 3-9 season. It was a rough year, but definitely a lot of fight from you guys, and to see where you guys have come now off a Big 12 championship, looking to repeat as Big 12 champions in 2025. We had Exxon on Friday, and we asked him just kind of like, what's the biggest difference, right, from when you first got to Arizona State in year one versus where you're at now trying to repeat as a Big 12 champion. Same question to you. What would you say is maybe the biggest difference from that year one to where you're at now, whether that be culture, communication, or anything that kind of falls into those parameters?
I think a lot of guys believed in themselves, but now we believe in each other. I think that's really the biggest difference. Is like we all had this individual belief and chip on our shoulder. I talked about a lot with Scat all the time. Like we had guys coming from Sac State, and you have guys coming from all these different places. And I think the reality is that as an individual, we all had a chip on our shoulder of like, man, I can do this. But I think now the difference is like, man, we can do this. We've done it already. I think from a maturity aspect, being professional. I think anytime you harp on things over and over and over again. So now us being in our third year, really talk about being a lifer, little things, intensity, family, education, response, success. Like those are real things. Seeing all the guys graduate, like it's really become a family. And like I said, that was a vision that happened in year one that I don't know if everybody was necessarily bought into because it's hard to believe in things that you can't see, right? And that's the true definition of faith. So I think it was really important for everybody to now see it. And so that recruits can come. It's like, man, we've done it already. So now it's just, essentially, we felt like it was in, our blood as individuals. And it was kind of like a breakthrough moment for a lot of people that have been, whether they came from a losing team or whether they had a hard path because they was ruled ineligible or injured or it could have been all the above, right, combined. So we had a lot of breakthrough moments in this past 365 from winning the championship, but also, a lot of guys even graduating. That was a breakthrough moment for them because a lot of the, transferring is hard. You lose credit sometimes when you transfer. So, being able to have the opportunity to graduate, being like, man, I really am a Sun Devil for life. I think that's important because you don't just say it like, man, I really am a Sun Devil for life. I graduated from here.
There is a lot of consistency with this team going into this season, a ton of returning players, familiar faces and names. One of the biggest changes, though, is the center position. Obviously, Leaf moving on to the next level, you then shifting over on the line. How do you feel like that transition has gone for you?
I think that the transition has been great. Being in college so long, and being the old man now, I think it's important to add more tools to your toolbox. I think it's more important to focus on something new. I think you can get very stagnant, especially in your growth, if you feel like that you're at the same position and dominating at that same position. So I think that allowed me in the spring to go to practice, make mistakes, be frustrated, right? Be upset that stuff didn't go right or that you didn't make the right call. But as far as the transition for myself, I'm hard on myself, but I feel like the transition has been good. I think for the league, it'll be most important to show my versatility. It's the only position I didn't play. And I think that's just because when I was at Cal, there was guys that, that played center for a long time and that worked out. I had no problem. And then when I was here having Leaf did great. So I had no problem. And I think kind of it naturally flowed into, and I think that's when the best things happen. And that's when you have the most growth, is that when things happen from a natural standpoint instead of forcing it.
You mentioned kind of being the old man on the offensive line at this stage in your career. You could have gone to the NFL, had other opportunities. For you, as a Big 12 champion, why did you choose to return for a final year at Arizona State?
I think the opportunity to show my versatility, I don't think that was the best product I put on the field. I saw X mentioned about, man, really getting his feet wet. I know I could do a lot of good things, but I'm already in a better body position now. There's a lot of things I want to change as far as my diet, as far as my routine, as far as strengthening small things, core, strengthening my hips, things that maybe to the eye of a fan, maybe you couldn't tell, right? But the people that could really critique you can tell. So there's something that I feel like was unfinished business. And then most importantly is that everybody finishes college. College is super unique. I hear from all the league guys all the time. I have a lot of friends from now here and at Cal that have told me a lot of great advice. They're like, man, just take your time, right? There's no rush to get to the NFL. The NFL's not going anywhere, and that's a lot of advice that I have from my father as well. So I was like, why would I leave this place? We're super blessed and fortunate with the NIL situation, and that's something that a lot of guys previously didn't have. So there's big opportunities where you feel like, man, I don't have to rush. I can sit here, I can enjoy myself, and at the same time, I can critique all the small stuff because I felt like I wasn't fully prepared. I felt like I could have done it 100% from a belief standpoint, but I felt like I had a better product to put out there as far as my entire body composition and my play on the field.
How do you attack changing the small things? Like, do you focus on one thing at a time? Or are you trying to change a bunch of small things at a time? Like, what's your process on improving on the margins?
Well, I think how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? I mean, and that goes from top to bottom, how you wake up, what's your breakfast, finding your breakfast. I think that's the biggest issue, is that find what works for you. That's what I tell all the guys, find what works for you as far as your routine. Is it ice bath, or is it just massages, or is it both? Is it needling? What really works for you as a player, as an individual? So it also comes down to discipline. How disciplined can you be? We all want to go out and have a great time with our friends, right? And eat bad things and come on Monday and feel a little fat and run it off, and then you kind of just repeat the cycle. So I think it's most important to have a team, and the offensive line has been doing a great job, tremendous job of keeping each other accountable, making sure we're doing extra cardio, making sure that we also have time to say, hey, man, let's eat good during the week, and then let's go out on Friday and enjoy ourselves, and let's wake up on Saturday and get back to the routine that we were on. So I think it's important to have, like they talk about a work-life balance, but I think most importantly, it's being able to be disciplined. I feel like that's the hardest thing for us young cats. We're in college, we want to have a good time, but if you can really make those small strides on a day-to-day basis, you'll see it in the long run.
So what's your Friday cheat meal?
We've done everything, whether it's been, steak houses. That was cool because we haven't done that in a while. The whole line, we had 5 of us. It was me, Kyle, Scott, Max, and Jametto, and Skrilla, and we went out there and had a steak. And actually, CJ Fight joined us, and there was a lot of commotion with the D line. They took a picture outside of the steakhouse. A lot of commotion with the D line. Clayton Smith wasn't happy about it. Justin Wiley wasn't happy about it. They're like, man, I mean, if you want to go be offensive lineman, so they give him jokes. You already look like offensive guard. Just go play guard. I mean, you already take pictures with him going to eat. I think it should be said that Max had the idea of taking him out for his birthday, and I was trying to figure out why the D-line didn't take him out for his birthday. But maybe that's just the offensive line mindset of being a little bit unselfish. And so while they were all doing whatever they were doing, we decided to take him out and say, hey, why don't we go treat him to a meal, have a good time, laugh over some good food. And that was that.
I love it. That's some good stuff.
I mean, how much steak did you guys eat? Did you guys put him out of business?
Like I said, being disciplined, now we'd be very reasonable. If you would have said last year, Like, I know we always talk about that. We weigh a truckload. So last year, towards the back end, we kind of laughed about it with Coach T. I was like, man, we were kind of heavy. Like, how we live now from top to bottom has completely changed as far as our diet and our discipline. So even we had a couple guys that didn't even finish the steak. Like, man, I don't need to eat the whole steak. I can take it home, right? It's not going anywhere, right? The steak's not going to run off the plate. Make sure sharing sides, figuring out, do we really want to do stuff? We kind of ran around the jokes of the butter cake because Jameto said he didn't want the butter cake. But as Max kept having that, thinks, oh, well, CJ get a butter cake. Jameto was making small notes like, oh, somebody going to get a butter cake? So he was like, man, if you want a butter cake, just get a butter cake. Long story short, we ended up splitting the butter cake because Jameto kept talking about it. So, we were rolling. They probably thought we was having too good of a time of there, but it was really just good food, good laughter, and good moments.
Oh, man, that's awesome. You bring up Jameto Big Bo. He is one of several transfers that have come to Arizona State, not just this offseason, but over the last several years, as a guy that's been here now in Tempe for some time, really helping establish this culture. What is it like year over year, or just, I guess, transfer portal cycle after transfer portal cycle, getting new guys? Obviously, Jameto was, I believe, at Texas State last year, a team that you guys saw. So what are those conversations like when these guys actually first arrive on campus?
I think it's setting the standard, setting the culture. And that's something that he learned too. He was a heavier guy, as we've all been at some point in time. And he's done an excellent job understanding, like, this is what the culture, this is what the standard is. And we also understand that doesn't happen overnight. You don't expect a guy to understand the culture in one night. But, day in and day out, old guys or guys that have been here, even if you're a young guy maybe you haven't cracked the line, but you've been here 3 years, you know what to expect, right? You know what the deal is. So I think, from a collective standpoint, it's been about how can we constantly reinforce and raise the standard at the same time with building a culture, because we feel like that's what's most important as a team. And that's why we felt like we were so good in those 2 years, because we were more focused about the culture. We're going to get better. We're going to practice hard. But Coach always tells us, man, hang out with each other. Hang out with each other all day long. Go on the weekends. I know it's easy to go do your own thing because it's the weekend and you saw them all week. But, like, whatever you guys go do, we did a lake day with, I have a fiance, and then Clayton Smith's girlfriend and Prince's girlfriend. We did a lake day. We had a great time. And then we came back the next day. This was Memorial Weekend, and then I invited over Jameto and Skrill. Everybody's welcome, hanging out with Shaman, all these different things to say how close can we get, from the wide receivers to the tight end to the center to the quarterback, so that by the time the season comes around, man, it doesn't matter if you're a transfer or not. You've understood, like, hey, I know this guy. This guy's my brother. And I know what the standard is. I know what the culture is. So I think we've done a good job of that, being able to make sure everybody controls their own room, making sure that the standards held high. Whether that's JT, Melquan was a big loss because he was, the old man last year. But there was JT. JT has grown a lot as a person, as a player. His routine has been even excellent. We live at 7:15, so we have to get there right around 6. JT's up there 6:15 because he feels like he has a long prehab process, what we call it, a long prehab process to make sure that when he does work out, he doesn't worry about minor setbacks of injuries and stuff this year. So he's done a great job preparing his body. So I feel like we've all done a great job from the older guys to make sure the transfers are all included and know what the standard is.
We hear a lot of buzzwords with this team: culture, family, activate the valley. Lots of talk about Kenny and Sam and Scat. What isn't talked about enough about the Arizona State football program?
Ben Coleman?
I could totally agree with that statement as well, but I think that just says that a lot of guys are underrated. Our quarterback is underrated. We all have Twitter too. We make sure that he's level-headed, but one day, Sam Levis is the number 1 quarterback. One day, Sam Levis is number 7 quarterback. All those different things, because there's a slight disbelief, like, it's still Arizona State. Yeah, JT proved it, but it's still Arizona State. Oh, Scat ran behind that line. Scat was a monster. When you go watch the film, everybody says, oh, I didn't know that the line really moved people like that. In the Texas game, I didn't know the line really produced. I didn't know they were really creating holes like that. And then it's still a thing, but it might be Arizona State. We have a great coach. We have the best, offensive coordinator in the nation. We have the best coach in the nation. We have the best D quarter. And it might be biased, but I think there's a proof to it. But then we look at him and say, Coach Arroyo, Coach Dillingham, I get it. Coach Tuatele, Coach Aguano, the proof's in the pudding with all the running back. Coach Hines Ward, he played football, but can he coach? All these different things, but it just seems like it's still Arizona State. So we like that. We don't have no problem with that it's still Arizona State, because Arizona State will continue to be on, to continue to go up from top to bottom. I mean, I think we see it from how one good season, and it started off with volleyball, so I'll give them their respect. Right into football has turned into, man, in the Big 12, that ASU can really be, a top program each and every year. And then we went and improved in football, that nationally ASU can be a football program that can be in the top. And I expect all the other sports to follow.
You bring up a guy like Sam Levitt, who has had a really interesting journey through his college career, even just a couple years in. What is that relationship like between you and him? Obviously, moving from guard to center, the relationship that him and Leaf had last year. And then really just how do you see your quarterback, Sam Levitt, just in terms of that national perception?
Well, I still think he's 14. I don't know if he has a driver's license, but he does drive. So fair enough, that's illegal or legal. I won't snitch on that, but I don't even know if he's old enough to drive. Cam Harple, gives him some rides to practice all the time. So like I said, I don't know if he can drive or not, but he does have a car. But that's how I kind of look at him as a little brother. How much love can I give him in this short time? There's a lot of stuff on his plate. I don't think he's overwhelmed with the moment. He's always believed in himself, and I think that's what matters. So it's up to us to make sure we protect him at all times. I had 0 sacks last year. That was important to me. It was super important. I had 2 QB hits that I was upset about that came on 3-man stunts, which is always difficult to block as an offensive line. But I feel like I've always prided myself as an offensive line to make sure to have your offensive lines back, so that way you can help and have your quarterbacks back. Make sure that, if our quarterback gets all the praise, if our running back gets all the praise, the offensive line never needs any praise. So that, I feel like we're doing something right. I also look out for guys like JT. We have an unbelievable wide receiver group. So how do I get him the ball? I got to protect. I got to make sure other guys are protected. I got to put them in the right spot. Sam and I's relationship last year was super good. My parents, his parents, they know each other. They hang out. The moms talk all the time. So all that stuff helps. So every day we see each other, give each other big hugs, laugh, jokes. And you can ask anybody. I'm always the one that is going to tell him that he's not worth anything, that he's not worth bleep, just because that's the joke, right? That's the big brother in me. He's a young cat with a lot of stuff on his plate, but we feel like he's the Heisman. He should be the Heisman front runner. He should be a Heisman contender. And if he's not in New York, we feel like maybe we fed us an offensive line because he has all the tools in the toolbox to make it happen.
Last one for me. Talk a lot about advice that you give other people. If you can go back in time and talk to high school Ben Coleman, what would be the biggest piece of advice you would give him?
I think for high school, it's like, man, when you're in high school, it's not as serious as you make it seem. And I think that's part of the game, right? You feel like the lights are on, it's all about you, and then you go to college and it resets. So I feel like just take your time with it. I feel like my journey has been perfect. I've never been worried about what the next man's doing, who's going to the league, who's not, what's the next step, who's getting praised and who's not. And I feel like I've done a good job of telling myself patience, 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 because I feel like that's something that I struggle with most. I struggled with that as a kid, wanting everything to just happen now. When I was in class, when I was little, I want the class to be over. Would we have a test? Okay, I'll take it right now, and then we can be done. But my dad always harped on it, and I was very frustrated as a kid. And I was frustrated in college. When you're a freshman or sophomore, and you're getting some playing time, you're better than some cats. There's a reason for everything, right? And God has a plan, and I think that's super important to understand that my steps are already ordered no matter what. So I think I would just reinforce that to myself, is that your steps are already ordered. I got injured my senior year of high school, so I naturally had to wait. So I was eager to kind of show I want it to be my time. But I feel like I learned that pretty quickly. That my steps are already ordered, so I've never been worried about the path. I'm not worried about being the old guy. I'm having a great time, and I think the biggest thing I can tell myself is that each and every day, how great can you be? How good can you focus on the moment? And when you said something, you said you want to be a college football player, you said you want to be in the NFL, you said all these things, you said you want to be a great person. So, long after that mood has left, you got to remind yourself that that's still my goal. The goal is the goal. So on days you don't feel like it, you have to maintain, find a way, and make it happen.
Ben, I you getting so much praise and love in the chat for your responses and everything. People saying you sound like a coach already. One final question, maybe the toughest question that I got for you before we get you out of here. Are you a New York Giants fan now that your running back is now in New York running for the Giants, man? Cam Scatterboo.
I don't know if I could ever be a fan of a team, but am I a Cam Scatterboo fan all day long? I'll blow his phone up. I'll wear the jersey. I'll do all that stuff. If that means that the Giants were in red and blue, then I'll take it.
Love it, man. Appreciate you hopping on. Congratulations again on the engagement. I know Sun Devil Nation really excited to see you as the starting center here for ASU in 2025.
I appreciate it.